Derivan, and today we're going to go through a step-by-step of how to complete just a cute little picture of a house on a hill, a couple of trees and a bit of grass. So first things first, we've got our Derivan oil colours here. Now I want to just point out to you, if we can just have a look, when you get them new, if we were to take the lid off, so unscrew the lid, and you can see it's sealed here across the top. So you need to grab something sharp, and I've just got a timber skewer, and just pierce that, just in the first instance. Okay, so we just need to pierce that to get it open and started. Once you've got that in the first go, we can add the lid back on, and then we've got a flip top lid. So to get the paint out, we can just simply squeeze it on. Oops. And then close it up. So there's no need to take the lids on and off ever again. And you can see the colour that we're using, and also the colour that we're using is the original colour here on the tube. It's not a printed colour, it's actually part of the paint. So the colour on the tube will always be true to colour. So as it's hanging in the shelf, you'll see that that's the colour that's in the tube. Alright? Now, when laying out your palette, always lay it out in the same order. Doesn't matter what order you choose, but make sure it's consistent. So mine, I always have my magenta, then scarlet red, cad yellow, lemon yellow, Australian sap, cobalt, ultra, purple, yellow oxide and burnt umber. So more or less it goes in the rainbow. So it's red, yellow, green, blue, purple, and then I've got the two earths on the end. So it's essentially the colours of the rainbow, and then with the earth colours on the end. Always make sure you put it out in your order. This is the order I put it out. Doesn't matter what order, but so it's not a fishing expedition when we go to create things. Alright? So just make sure that we're not hunting for colour. You need to know where things are. So the scene here, I've just drawn it up just gently with charcoal. Now you'll notice that if we wipe that, it does move a bit, but don't worry about that. We only need that as a guide to get ourselves started. So just wipe our brush down, and I'm just going to use a little bit of the ultra and the Australian sap just to get the dark colours of the tree. So always start with your darks because it's a logical way to work. This piece of canvas that we're working on, and I'm just working on a canvas board, and this one's 8 inches by 10. We can't show a highlight on here because it's white. So we can show the darks or we can show the shadows. So just place in the shadows. The main thing is to don't mix up a big puddle of paint here, and also make sure that the colours are still stranding through here. So don't overmix here. Just grab and let it be undermixed as we go. And remix as you go. So remix, remix. The worst thing we can have is just one big flat colour there. The more change or the difference in this, the better. So we'll just chuck in a couple of darts through here. Let's get it a bit more raw blue. I don't mind if there's a bit of that actual blue showing. And remember, we're just doing the dark parts of the tree. Don't paint the whole tree. We don't want a tree shape. We just want the dark areas. You can vary those as much as you like too. It doesn't really matter. We'll try a bit too hard. Okay. And just let some of that escape here and there. Now, just going to attack those windows. Now, for the windows, I'm just going to dig into a little bit of this purple, bit of the yellow oxide. And again, don't try and paint a window. Won't work. Just put a shape. We've got something here and something on this side. going to throw in that door at this time as well. And again, remix, remix. Don't have a big puddle of paint. Don't overmix. Just throw it on as a dark. And again, just let some of that escape. Doesn't matter where. Now, I'm going to come down and just block in this dark part of the grass. So we're going to fill in through here fairly quickly. So we're just going to grab some of that green, a bit of yellow, the tiniest bit of red just to tweak it. So just a dark, I might just take a whisker of white there. Just be careful when you're using white into the green. White will make the green quite chalky. So you want to make sure that if the tone, so tone is just how dark or light it is. We get the tone light, but we don't want the colour chalky, so we need to beef it up with a bit of lemon yellow. So if it's getting pasty colour on you, throw in a bit of lemon yellow. Again. And follow the form of the object. So if we make those brush strokes like this on that hill, that will give us that steepness or that slope of that hill. If you make them any other shape, they'll take on a different slope or a different steepness. Don't paint scratchily, use thick pieces of paint. Okay, so don't be shy on with the paint. Paint thick. A thick or bold piece of paint is always going to tell the story much better than a scratchy mark. Oh, as the board wobbles a bit there. But see how we're remixing the whole time. And look, it doesn't matter if you grab into the wrong colour, it's fine. Throw it on there. It's not going to do anything. Painting's not a formula. There's not really a formula for grass. There's not really a formula for trees. It's almost an instinct. So just make sure that there is enough variation in there so that even though it's one big dark sort of area of grass, we have different things happening within that area. We don't want it as a giant flat piece. So again, remix, remix, throw it on. Remix, throw it on. Painting's hard enough. Don't make it hard on yourself. Okay, drag on this. It's getting thin there. See those sorts of strokes? That's what I was talking about earlier. We don't really want that type of thing happening. We want it a lot thicker. Thick marks just read better. So if the viewer's got nice chunky marks to follow, it'll always hold better. So I'm just going to send that a little bit darker, just adding a tiny bit of red, maybe a bit of blue in there. Just so there's something happening that's a little bit of a change. We better fill in this front corner too, just down in here. And remix again. Just making sure we've got enough pattern or rhythm in that grass. And we do have to cover all the canvas. You know, we don't want little holes of white showing anywhere. We do actually want to cover it. So now the next dark part is really the hill in the background. So let's try and just paint in and around things. Don't ever paint something to come back over. So we wouldn't paint the sky and then put the trees on top. Think of the whole surface area as if we're going to attack that with one piece of paint, no matter what it is, and we're not ever going to come back to it. So that way we keep it clean, we keep it fresh. So paint in and around things. Don't paint all of this to put something on top. Just paint the surface, whatever that part of the picture might be. So for that hill, let's try just a bit of mauve and a bit of oxide there and a bit of ultra. So we just get and we don't want it to just blue that up again. So play here for a long time. Spend most of your time here mixing colour. A little bit of time on here. Big bit of time up here on your palette. Just keep changing. If your mix isn't quite right. So see how, I don't know whether you can pick that up, but see how this puddle comes from a blue to a mauve? This is good. Just don't overmix. So I'll do what we don't want first. So if we have this and we mix it all in, it just becomes too flat. So change it back again. Okay, so let's add in this hill. Could come a bit bluer. That's better. And good thick paint. So just let it do whatever it's going to do. Bring it in and around here. Change. Add a bit of that yellow ochre into it. Squash it on. Take it up to the tree. Throw it in the back of here. Don't make these edges really straight. So in through here, make sure that there's a nice bumbly edge to them. Don't get it all too tight. So it just won't work. Okay. Just realised we've got another dark tree on this, so let's plonk that in through here. So again, don't paint an object then an object. Paint the whole thing together. So I've got this through here. Okay. Now the next darkest thing is probably the roof here. So we're going to just attack that. Grab red, but don't use red on its own. It's going to look too raw. So just tweak it. We're going to just use a bit of yellow oxide. Let's grab a bit of the yellow, a bit of the white. Okay. So we've got something that's a bit more interesting than just raw red. And again, don't overmix it. So let it strand on here. And don't worry too much about what colours you add to it. Just make sure you add something to it. Remember, it's not a formula. Now again, follow the form of the object. So if the roof's doing this, put it on in the direction of the roof. Only put on that much, then change. Add a bit more yellow this time, a bit of white, and change. Then add a bit more red into it, darken it up. And plonk it on. Now we're going to get a bit cleaner red, bit of yellow. We'll just come over here. And we'll just do that piece over the veranda, just quite light. So we've got that come in lighter than the roof, just so that we can see. And we've got this, can you see this tiny dark line here, just at the bottom of that first roof. So again, just follow the line. Thick paint, don't worry if it's a bit wobbly, wobbly's good. We don't want it tight and neat. Tight and neat will make it look too naive and just a bit childlike, so we don't want it to look too childlike. Okay, so let's grab the light parts of the tree and the light parts of the grass. Notice how we haven't resolved any shape on its own. We're just painting the whole painting together. So we started with our darks and our mediums. Now we're going to drop in the light. So we're going to go to the light grass and the light parts of the tree, and that should start to lock it all together. Try and avoid completing any part on its own. Just paint the whole painting together, always. So for the lighter green, we're just going to add a bit more yellow to that green we had, and a bit more white. See how I was talking about before, how pasty that yellow makes that? When we add the white, it gets a bit chalky. So we need to beef up the hue. Hue's just the colour. So see, that colour's a bit better than the other. It's more realistic. If you find that your puddle of paint's too lime green, just add the tiniest bit of red. Not to change it from being green, but just to take that raw edge off it. Okay? So that's going to be a much more user-friendly colour on your page. So let's just drop that onto these lighter areas. And again, don't overmix here, remember, let it strand with bits of colour so different things happen on the board. And nice thick pieces of paint. Just let a bit of it escape. Drop it in through here. Just going to, whilst we've got it on there, just drop a few bits of highlight through here. Drop this hill coming in this side. And the brush has picked up a bit of the blue hill there. That's a good thing. Doesn't matter. If you pick up things along the way and it gets a bit what you might think is messy, it's actually a good thing. So just let it do those things. It actually is bad if it doesn't. Okay, so remix. Remember, not a big puddle of paint for anything, just keep remixing and re-adding. And we do have to cover all the bits of canvas, like I said before, so just come back and fill in those holes and those bits, but just come back over it. Alright. So I'm just going to change that green a little bit to render the tops of these trees. So I want those a little bit darker, but obviously not as dark as the first piece of the tree. So we're just going to pop these on and just place it carefully in and around those original shapes. And remember, just remix, remix. We don't want that to be exactly or perfectly the same colour as this next bit. We just want it close in tone, so it needs to be the same darkness. Tone is just how dark it is. Okay. And what I might do is just grab a bit more of that dark and push it into here. A bit more of this into there. Okay. Just drop those in there. So can you see how this colour that we added is just a little bit darker than this colour on the grass? And again, we just change this on the palette. So in reality, this is different to that. They're close in tone, but a different colour. That's actually a good thing. So, you know, you don't need to remember what colours you used, so long as we've got something that was added to or from this one piece of paint. Just keep changing, keep remixing. You can't really get it wrong. Tone is more important than the colour. So tone is just how light or dark it is. As long as you've got a light next to a dark, it's going to work. So I'm just picking at this again, change it just slightly. And just through there it's picking up a bit of that hill, but I quite like that. So it's been picking up a bit of that mauve we had on there originally, but I don't mind the effect that's happening. I just want to push this dark, so I just grab any dark colour. In this case I'm using a bit of the blue and the green, which is what we originally had. Just push it through there, just gently, just to hold that back in. That trunk needs to be a bit wider, so I'll just grab a bit of that. That's better. Okay. Oh, I've missed a tree there behind the house. There's a little line here. So again, follow the form of the object. Don't just colour it in. The form of the object will give you the growth habit of that tree. It'll give you the flank of the roof. It'll give you the undulations in the hill. So be careful of that. Follow the form of the object and paint with thick pieces of paint. Always thick. Now I'm just going to fill in that road with a bit of yellow ochre, a bit of brown, a bit of mauve. Just the two browns on the end and a bit of white. It's fairly light. So we just could come a bit lighter. So just plonk a bit on, throw it in there and change it if you need to. It's only a bit of paint. Here we go. So where it's down here we're going to go light against dark, and up here we're going to go dark against light. So every time you put on a piece of paint, the next piece of paint has to be lighter or darker than the one before it. That's all you really have to remember. Now I've just grabbed a bit of dirt in that colour from his neighbour there on the palette. Doesn't matter what that neighbour ends up on your palette. In this case it was a bit of red and a bit of mauve from this side, but if you mix anything into it, it's going to work. Just remix. What we don't want is a big puddle of one colour to represent that. We also don't want the two sides of it being too parallel. Strangely enough, we want them to have a nice rhythm or pattern on either side. So we're just going to make that just a little bit uneven on one side, just to take the viewer through the page. Just going to darken it up a bit as it gets to the top here, so we can take it up to the building. Just going to add a little bit of light green grass just to the edge of that path, just in here. Just drop these breaks sort of instinctively where you think they should be. Now, it's going to paint the side of that building. Now it is a white building, but white objects aren't white. The local colour's white, but we never use white on its own. So I'm just going to dirty it a little bit. So we've just got a bit of yellow ochre there and a bit of purple. We do need to use white, but we just want it just a nice neutral colour. So just play with it a bit. Grab a bit of the blue. And again, you can put almost anything into this, doesn't matter. Here I'll grab a bit of yellow this time. But what that'll do is just give us, oh, we can come lighter than that. Okay. It'll just give us a good colour to represent that white part of the building. And remix. So this small piece of paint is different to the next small piece of paint. Just remix. Turn the brush over, there's different things happening on either side of the brush, that's good. Now, it'll have a bit of a shadow cast onto the front of that from the eaves there, so I'm just going to drag a bit of a shadow right across the front of the building there. And I'll just, pardon me, just tidy up the front of that door and the stairway. So again, just a dark here. And if your brush is loaded, you'll be able to just plonk that on. So notice how I'm just delivering the paint. So load your brush and deliver the paint. Don't fiddle there. Just put it on and live with whatever it's done. Don't keep playing on it. If you keep playing on it, your painting will become flat and you'll lose that freshness. So, let's add a bit of the sky. So we're just going to add the ultra blue, a bit of white, and again, don't just use blue and white on its own. Add anything into it. So you could add this magenta, or you could add a bit of green. Now the idea is not to change it from being blue, but to make it more easy on the eye. So it's easy for the viewer to process. So it becomes a calmer blue in the sky when we add something to it. And again, remix. We want this corner different in colour to this corner. We want the colour to have a nice play from left to right. So don't mix a big puddle of paint to do a sky. The other thing is sky will fade down to the horizon. So we want it darker across here, and we need to add a little bit of white into the mix as we go. Keep going, keep going, keep going. So let's get this strip across the top. And if you've got plenty of paint on the brush, you can just come up to those trees. And if it happens, if you happen to pick up a bit of the tree and you get your sky dirty, don't worry. Just leave the green in there, it's fine. Not going to notice in the end. What you will notice is if you do it all flat, it won't quite work for you. Just going to still a bit of that other blue. So I've just added a whisker of cobalt into that at this stage. Again, it's not a formula. You can use whatever you want, so long as it's changing along the way. So essentially these are the equivalent in tone. So tone, remember, is just how dark or light it is. So they're about the same greyness. So if we took a black and white photo, they would come out pretty close. What's happening here is that this half of it is more mauve and this is more blue. So remember, we want it to change colour just slightly across the board. And we also want it to change in tone as it comes down. Hence why I'm painting right across. And always thick paint. Remember, thick paint will tell the story better than this. Don't be doing this. It's not going to work for you. Just load your brush and deliver the paint. The other thing is don't play too long. If we need these little marks and strokes in the sky, if you do this all the way through it, you're going to lose the dynamics and the movement that you've created there. So don't fiddle with it. Just deliver the paint and move away. Or move to the next piece. See that? Oh, you probably can't pick it up. It's just picked up a big piece of green. That's good. Out of the tree. Don't panic. It's good. Just use it. Don't worry too much about those things, and they're not bad things, they're good things. So remember, we want to come lighter as we get towards the horizon, so we just want to, whilst the paint's wet, we can just gently soften that edge between the two. And we can just add a few holes into this foliage as we go. We do that just by delivering the paint again onto that green. It's not going to dirty our brush. So long as you deliver the paint to the page. Trick is to have your brush loaded. Plenty of paint. I know I've said it, but just load it up. Alright, now I'll get to that other side there. Oops, board's moving a bit. Okay, now we come lighter again, just on that last strip through here. And that white that I picked up over here was a bit dirty, it's got a bit of yellow in it, doesn't matter, alright? Use it. Okay, see how nice and thick that is? Just get it on there, up to the edge of that tree. Give that a nice shape on the edge of that, don't make it too even or too round. Or even if it was a clipped tree, it's still not perfect. There we go, it's picked up a bit of roof there, that's good. Okay, back into here. Mix up, dirty it with something else. Throw that into here. Throw this across this way. And again, not too hard. Remember this edge, we made it nice bumbly edge. Make sure that's an interesting edge. Same as this one over here. So we don't want it nice and neat. Just have it as a bit of a moving sort of edge. Okay. And there you have it. So it's fairly simple. You don't have to paint as quick as that. If you need more time to execute that painting, then go right ahead. The main thing is don't panic with anything that you're putting down. We can always correct it. So long as there's a dark, then a light, then a dark, then a light. That's going to make the painting work for you. I hope you enjoyed that quick demo, and happy painting.